Hey Shahara, welcome back to my channel, to the TV Fanatic. So, I'm going to be doing top 20 Merthur scenes in Merlin because I'm obsessed with Merthur. We all are, aren't we? Um, and I've been wanting to do this video for a little while, and I'm finally doing it. So, let's get into it. I just want to say that this was one of the hardest countdown lists I've ever had to do because not because it's like my favorite couple in the world, even though it is pretty high. But I have too many ships and too many fandoms to choose just one or even two. But because Merlin and Arthur is the main relationship of the show, so they have scenes together in like every episode. So and there's 5 seasons, so there's just so much content to go through, so many amazing scenes, and it was just so hard to choose between them. But I did my best. So yeah, there's also a lot more honorable mentions than I meant for it to be, but like I said, there's just too many. Too many, I tell you, too many! So, um, let's get into this. Number 20, I have Merlin saves Arthur's life the first time in the first episode. Um, and this scene is like, is so, obviously the scene is important because this is how Merlin became his manservant, which is basically the entire premise of the show. And I love how even though they pretty much hated each other, Merlin still saved his life, and then they both like hated that he became the manservant. But like, if you look, it kind of looked like Arthur was checking Merlin out, like trying to figure him out. Like earlier in the episode, he said, "There's something about you I can't figure it out." It's like he was trying to figure it out. I swear. But great scene. um, number 19. The worst servants I've ever had. So this was season 1, episode 10. Merlin was gonna go back to his village to help his mom, and he didn't actually plan to come back. And I love it because like they literally been together for 10 episodes, and Arthur already can't live his life without Merlin. Like he just assumes he's coming back. And then when Merlin's like, "She's my mom," he's like, "I understand," but you can see how upset he looks at the longing in his eyes. And then later in the episode he ends up going with him, which is just so sweet. He tried to play it off, but like, no, you don't do that unless you care, which Morgana and Gwen had commented about. 18. Merlin's wisdom. So, uh, Merlin was, being Merlin and said something. I don't remember exactly. He said something, and Arthur just looked at him, and I swear, in the 5 seasons, he could not figure Merlin out. He was just, and you could see it in it, like his clocks were turning, and he was like, he just can't figure Merlin out, and he's like, finally said he was had there was wisdom in him. Sometimes he had his these moments, but then again he played it off as like, the rest of the time you're stupid or whatever. I love the relationship. Um, number 17, your riddle Merlin. Um, once again, they're having their back and forth, their banter, and I just love how they are with each other, like the teasing, the banter, the but then when things get serious, they can be serious, they can help each other, and uh I love the joking around, but but they care about each other deep down, and when something does happen, they show that they care, even if they don't mean to. um and I just love how he called him like supercilious or whatever, and Arthur's like, "Ooh, that's a big word," and I just love them so much. Number 16, Merlin thrown across the room. This began season 4, and I love it. Not just this scene, because like Merlin put Arthur back to, and got hurt because of it, but I just love Arthur, like his reaction after this, like not just when Merlin's first injured, but then when he's strapping him to the horse so that Lancelot can take him back to Gaius and heal him, and his I love how he just this entire episode, like this number 16 should just be the entire episode because I feel like it's probably one of their best episodes, which is saying something because they have a lot. I'm this may not be the only time I say this either, but I just love how worried he seems, and then they're supposed to be doing this important mission, and the entire time he can only think about Merlin. Like he's just so worried, and he's acting like a worried husband, like seriously, and it's just really sweet. And then when they end up reuniting because Merlin lets Locke go back because Merlin was okay, and uh there it was like this awkward sweet exchange between them. Arthur was so happy to see Merlin and see that he was okay, and like the entire episode it's just packed with so many great scenes with the two of them. um Number 15 is I Wouldn't Lie to You. Now, this was originally an honorable mention, but I brought it up just because when I rewatched the scene while doing research, um, I realized how sweet the scene is because I think it might be season one. I might be wrong, but I think it's season one. And it's just a really sweet scene because or it might be season two. Either way, they still it's not like season five when they are like besties and they're really close. It's like even though they are still close and they do still obviously have feelings for each other, they're more willing to hide it right now because they still it's like they have known each other that long. And I just love the exchange because Merlin's like, I know I'm just a servant, my word doesn't count for anything, but I wouldn't lie to you. And Arthur, the way he looks at Merlin and he's just like, you swear? And then he was like, I believe you. And it's just so sweet. I feel like it's so important for their relationship because it shows, because like later on, there's that one scene um, when Arthur was going, I think it was season four because it was when Gwen was gone because of all that drama. And Arthur's like, Arthur was gonna marry that other girl, and then she says how Arthur like I don't remember her exact wording, but she was like he cares about your judgment and your advice more than anyone else's. And even though he wouldn't admit it, and it's like it's true. And I feel like this is the first step into that direction. Or maybe I just read too much into things. um, moving on. Number 14. I don't want you to feel that you're alone. This is also a really sweet scene because this is also how you can tell that because Merlin does become the most loyal person to Arthur, and Arthur will even admit that. I think he will admit that later on, like in season 4 and 5. But the way Arthur looks at Merlin, like he's just so in awe of him. Like really I can't speak. Literally stayed up all night out there so that Arthur wouldn't feel alone after his father's death. And Arthur just looked at him in like awe, and it was just such a sweet scene. Um, Number 13. Arthur warns Merlin. Now, I don't know why I love this scene and why it's this high. It probably shouldn't be, but I just love the scene. I can't help it. Um, because at this point, there's still. I'm pretty sure this is an early episode too. If not season one, then season two at least. And um, Merlin, I think it was the troll episode. I might be wrong, where he Uther almost married the troll, and um she knew that he was onto him, so she claimed that he stole her something of hers, and so his there was a war or Uther had wanted him to be arrested, and Arthur like this shows how much he actually cares about Merlin. Like he went out of his way, even though he could get in trouble, to warn Merlin, to tell him to hide, to go, to whatever, because he couldn't stand for Merlin to be arrested. Because he didn't even ask Merlin if he was innocent or not. He just assumed, not assumed, but it's like he knew that Merlin would never do that. Even though no matter what he says on the surface, he cares deeply about Merlin and believes in him, and it's just so obvious in small scenes like this, like because Merlin is just a servant, so there's no reason for Arthur to really care about him, but he does, and he didn't even ask. and that's what gets me. He didn't even ask Merlin, like, if he did it. He didn't want his side of the story. He just wanted Merlin saved. It was just so sweet. Um, Number 12. Arthur checking on a sad and lonely Merlin. I love this scene. This is when um uh I don't remember when. It was later on, I think season 4. Um but like Arthur was with his knights off, but Merlin was like off all alone, and then Arthur looks at him and gets up to go over to make sure he's okay. It's just so sweet. It's like you can see how much he cares. Like he's with his knights, the people that are supposed to be like almost as high up as the king himself. But what does he do? He looks for his servant, then he leaves his knights for his servant. Like, tell me there's nothing going on. um Number 11. Arthur's worry for Merlin. So another time when Merlin's injured, this is when he I think at the beginning of the episode he was stabbed during a fight, and um I won't get too much into the episode because I think I have another scene from that episode later on, because again this is probably one of my favorite Merthur episodes. But this is okay, I know what episode this is. This is the one where I forgot what it's called now, but it's like season 4, episode 6. I remember that much. And like half the episode is Arthur worrying about Merlin, the other half of the episode is Merlin trying to kill Arthur. It's probably one of my favorite episodes. But uh and I just love it because Arthur's just so worried about him. Like he's in the middle of this fight scene, but he stops when he sees Merlin injured, and then he risks everything to try to help him and save him. And when they get separated, he freaks out, and then um, he refuses to believe when everyone else says that he's gone. To just he refuses to believe it, and then he even goes out searching for him by well, not actually by himself because he did end up taking weight. Okay, but he still goes to search for him. Like, tell me that he does not care. Where am I? Number 10 is I was burned. Bleh, I can't speak. I was born to serve you. This is in the last episode, and their interactions in the last episode are interesting. Some of them, like Arthur's just so upset, and like the entire time he's not talking about being upset about Merlin having magic, but that Merlin never told him. And I love how he doesn't regret anything. Is he believes he was born to serve Arthur, and he isn't ashamed of that. Takes pride in that, and it's just so sweet. And how th- like they look at each other, and I'm pretty sure they look at each other's lips too. It's like they so wanted to kiss. Number 9 is let my servant go. He doesn't deserve to die like this. Another great scene. Um, I love it because like how many times are they willing to die for the other? Like seriously? There's just so many times they're considering they tried to kill each other in their first meeting, now they're risking themselves. And I love how Arthur just wants Merlin to go and be safe, but Merlin refuses. He says you have to kill me first, and then they just have this banter back and forth because of their worry for each other and wanting to protect each other. That's like how it's just I love it. Number 8. Arthur cheers Merlin up. This is after Freya died. I almost forgot her name. Freya died, and then he couldn't exactly say outright what's wrong with him because no one could know about his relationship with Freya. And Arthur sees how upset he is, which is another thing. Arthur can always tell when Merlin's upset. But anyways, and I love how he works so hard to just make sure he's okay, and um, and then when Merlin smiles, he's like, "That's better," and it parallels to the scene a deleted scene. I think the deleted scenes in season four, but they're riding back to the castle from somewhere. I don't even know where. But he's I don't remember exactly what Arthur says, but he asks if he's okay or if he said you seem happy or something like that, I think. And then he said I am, and then Arthur's like, good, then we've accomplished something. And it's just because no matter what Arthur will say, he obviously cares about Merlin, and his happiness is important to him, and it's just so sweet. Number what are we on? 7. Arthur gives Merlin his sigil, his mother's sigil, and that's that's a proposal. I don't care what anyone says. That's a proposal. Like I read something, and that's like a way of proposing back in the olden days. So he proposed to him. They are now engaged. That's the way I see it. But I can't believe that's a deleted scene. It's probably the only deleted scene I actually have on here. But it shouldn't be a deleted scene. Like it was an important scene. Um. But yeah. So um. And I love it. How he wanted Marlin to have it. It's just so sweet. Number 6, a servant who is extremely brave and loyal. Like I said, there's a couple other scenes I have on here because that's like one of my favorite episodes. The one where Arthur's worried about Merlin and then Merlin tries to kill Arthur because it's an awesome episode. And this is just such a sweet scene. Like Arthur was trying so hard to save Merlin, and then um Arthur finally says these amazing things to Merlin, and this is what he actually thinks about Merlin because he's not sure if Merlin's gonna survive, and you can see the Merlin's reaction. He's like, "Oh no, he's being nice to me. Am I gonna die?" But it was just amazing, and it's such an important scene because it shows what Arthur actually thinks about Merlin, despite what he says from time to time. So, number 5 is Merlin being poisoned because we love that scene. We love that scene. At least I do. Season 1, episode 4 is another one of my favorite episodes. And, honestly, number 4 should just be that entire, no, not number 4, number 5. Number 5 should just be that entire episode because there's just so many great points in that episode. Like, I love one thing. I think I said this in my Merlin review. Actually, I'm pretty sure I definitely did. But I love how not only does Arthur go through extremes, going against his father's orders to get the cure, but then afterwards, and when Uther crushes it, Arthur looks so heartbroken, like his last hope had just died in front of him. And then when the dungeon door closed, he like reached out so desperate to get that cure for Merlin. And then when Gwen goes down to see if he got it, and Arthur was smart by putting it in his food so that Gwen, because knowing Gwen will take it to Gaius, who will give it to Merlin. And it was and it's like he was just literally holding that the entire time until Gwen got there. Like seriously, he didn't know that Gwen was gonna go there. He was literally just holding it, clinging to his last hope for Merlin to be okay. Tell me, just that's episode 4. Like, tell me they aren't in love, and then the interaction at the end and how Arthur went to make sure Merlin was okay, and it was just, the entire episode. Like I said, it's one of my favorites as well. Number 4 is Arthur drinks poison for Merlin. Gotta love this as well. That one guy, I don't know what they called him, but was trying to see where Arthur's heart truly lied by having like 2 chalices in front of them, one filled with poison, and they had to drink both, and both chalices had to be someone drunk, and I love how Merlin actually came up with a smart idea, but then Arthur tricked him and ended up pouring both goblets into his, and drank it, and it was, and then he did. It was a trick. He just wanted to see where Arthur's heart lied, but it was just so sweet, and it proves how much Arthur cares about Merlin. Like, he drank poison for him. I mean, I guess Merlin did drink poison for Arthur too. Stop drinking poison, people! But yeah. But I absolutely love it. It's such a sweet scene. Um, Number three, more in the top threes. Um, Arthur trying to save Merlin, but getting separated. Um, Another scene from that episode. That probably is my favorite episode, to be honest. I have three scenes from there. Oh, so just yeah, I love that episode. But I love how, like, Arthur's just so desperate to save Merlin, and then they get jumped by all these bandits, and Merlin's also desperate to save Arthur, so he makes the walls crash. But what gets me is Arthur's cry for Merlin, cause that just gets me every time. Like, he looks so desperate once again, thinking he's gonna lose the man he loves, and I just can't. It's just too sweet. What am I on? Number two, Arthur hugs Merlin. I almost put that at number one, but because it was the only time they actually hugged. But there was one scene that is probably, even though it's not in my favorite episode, it is definitely my favorite scene. And so we'll get there when we get there. But Arthur, this is the only time they actually hug, and it's just so sweet because this was also in that episode. Jeez. Okay, that's what, four scenes in one episode. That okay? It's official. That's my favorite episode apparently. Apparently has the best Merthur scenes. But I love how this is when Arthur left to go searching for him with Gwaine, and when he finally saw him, the smile that broke out on his face, he was so happy and so relieved. And then, without even thinking or anything, he just hugged him. Like, it just became habit. And it was like an important thing for them, especially Arthur, because he did think he'd lost Merlin for a minute, and so he had to hug him and feel him and make sure it was real. And it was just so sweet. And I'm sorry, it had to be number two. Like, only one other scene can beat that scene. Let's be real. Hi, so this is me coming in while editing. So I wanted to have like the clips of these scenes play throughout the video. And I've tried uploading this video to YouTube like all day. And they don't want me to. I keep getting buffed for copyright, so I can't have the video, sadly. Uh, so, there will be no clips, and I'm coming in to tell you the honorable mentions because I was just gonna play the honorable mentions, but like I said, it won't let me, so I'm just gonna say what they are. So I have Merlin goes with Arthur to face Kugara. I think we'll probably get on. That's when Arthur was trying to figure out what was wrong with Merlin when they were in bed, separate beds, obviously, but and he was like, if I wasn't a prince, then I think we'd probably get on. And then after Arthur, in the last episode, after Arthur found out about Merlin's magic, when he said you never once felt any credit, then also in that episode, I don't want you to change. I want you to always be you. So sweet. Um, I know on this list I had when Merlin was thrown across the room, and this is after that when he turns up alive and everyone's happy, and the scared look on Arthur's face when Les lost his bad news, and then the relief after Merlin shows up, and it's just so sweet. Um, I'll take your place. That's that's like right afterwards, when they're talking, and Merlin obviously wanted to take Arthur's place because Arthur was gonna sacrifice himself, and Merlin was like, no. Horseplay, when Arthur said he wanted to make a kingdom where everyone's equal, and Merlin was like, and then they started talking about how Arthur hits him, and then Merlin hits Arthur, and it was hilarious. Uh, I'm happy to be your servant until the day I die. That was what, the last episode of season one. And then I haven't seen you smile these past 3 days. The fact that he counts how many times he smiles, just saying. I also want to note that he noticed when Merlin did smile for 3 days, but didn't notice when his own wife was possessed for a number of weeks. So just throwing that out there. Um, I've seen the woods already. That's when they were gonna face Morgana, I think, right after they found out Morgana was evil. And then Arthur was trying to give him an out to go with the knights, and then he was like, "No, we're not doing that." And then the last scene is when I don't remember exactly what was going on, but they were all like the Merlin and the knights were at the campfire, and Arthur was just kind of standing inside a tent, and he was just kind of staring so lovingly at Merlin, like that man was in love, like you could see it, like he was just staring at Merlin like he was in love of his life. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. Sorry for not being able to have these clips play. Um, I didn't have this issue when I uploaded my top 20 Malik's moments from Roswell, New Mexico, so I have no idea why I'm having issues with this one. But uh, thank you for being patient, and let's go on to number one. um, Number one is Arthur goes back for Merlin. This would have been season four. Yeah, season. It was at the end of season four. They were heading back to Camelot to stop Morgana and all that, and uh why I love the scene is because Merlin went to go kill Agravain, and then Arthur stops and looks, and he was like Merlin, and he's like I'm going back, and that one guy who thinks royalty is just awful was like for a servant, but he didn't care. He had to go find Merlin. He had to make sure he was okay, and then when he did, he was mad. He was like, "You scared me," and I love how Merlin was just like, "You came back for me." And but Arthur's response was the best part. He's like, "Yes, it's true. I came back because you're the only friend I have, and I couldn't lose you." It's just so sweet, and Merlin's little smile, like it was a declaration of love. I don't care what anyone says. Um, but yeah, I had to have that scene as number one because it's the best Merthur scene like ever. So thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment what your favorite Merthur scenes are. I would love to know, and I'll talk to you guys next time.